Ewokese. That is an actual language, I guess. That's what the Ewoks speak. The more you know. What's going on, you guys? James here, and welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Rewind. If you don't know what that is, that's me going through each and every Star Wars episode from 1 all the way up to The Rise of Skywalker. Now today we're diving into Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. It's really not that bad, you guys. But if this is your first time here at the channel, welcome to Real James. Now if you're wondering who that is, that's me, and I love talking all about movies, so I drop a new video each and every week. You don't want to miss out. Go ahead and hit the big red button below. Red. Get it? And subscribe to the channel. Now also hit that little bell right next to it so you stay notified with anything new that I drop each and every day. Oh, and don't forget to like this video, share it with all your friends in the galaxy, and in the comments below, let me know what you think of Star Wars Episode 6. Is it as bad as people say it is? Because there's a group I found out that does not like this movie. Or did you really enjoy Return of the Jedi? Alright, y'all. Let's do this review because I really must love you guys. This is a really hot sweater. Let's dive right into Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Episode 6 is directed by Richard Marquand and written by Lawrence Kasdan and George Lucas. George Lucas! He's back! Episode 6 was released in 1983, 3 years after Episode 5. Now this is one of the original trilogy films I revisit the least. But let's talk about the story. Now the beginning is very sluggish, and I think the film as a whole feels a little bit different than the other two. And I think that's because the pacing is so slow. The other two films you kind of get into things fairly quickly, and in this one you're with Jabba and his gang of misfits, and you kind of start to get into the story little by little. And generally I like when stories let you marinate, but here I felt like it took a little bit of time before you started getting into the action, and that was probably about 30 minutes in. Also, I wasn't the biggest fan of them trying to vilify Jabba the Hutt more than he already was. Like, we know he's a bad person, but they kind of hit the nail on the head, and they were like, he's bad. He's very bad. Look how bad he is. He threw someone in a pit and the person got eaten by a monster. We get it. There did come a point though in the beginning where I saw Han Solo when he was like frozen. I'm not gonna lie, as a child that broke my heart, and it also terrified me a little bit. But even as an adult, it broke my heart too, probably because I've been like so in love with this original trilogy on this rewatch, and seeing him frozen like that, I understood the anguish. I remembered the screams from Empire Strikes Back. So I think the film does a good job at kind of getting you in this mood that it's setting. Now, if you were watching some of the earlier Star Wars Rewind episodes, if you haven't, the links are below. I do talk about watching the original trilogy on Disney Plus, and on Disney Plus they have the special editions. Guys, the addition of CGI by George Lucas was incredibly noticeable. Like, it was out of place. It felt like something was sticking out in every scene. I'm like, that wasn't there. That looks really weird. Okay. I know that's a complaint from so many fans, but you're gonna hear it from this one too. George Lucas, why did you add so much CGI in the special editions? It didn't need it. The film did not need these weird characters, especially in that dance sequence in the beginning with Jabba the Hutt. However, I did notice that some of the practical effects, the ones that George Lucas decided to keep, were even better than episodes 4 and 5. And I don't know if it was because it had a bigger budget, but everything seemed a little bit more fully realized, and that's throughout the movie. So many things felt real whenever practical effects were used. Now, I know I haven't spoken too much about the plot just yet, but here's where we are in the story. Luke Skywalker is a Jedi Knight, and he's trying to train to beat Darth Vader because he wants to save the rebels and free the galaxy. Now, Darth Vader and the Emperor clearly don't want this to happen, so they build and construct another Death Star, which is fully operational. So in order to save the galaxy, they need to again destroy the Death Star. This time though, Luke needs to battle with knowing Vader's his father, and that Palpatine wants to convert him to the dark side. So the story overall really does have that finale feeling. A lot of the times the beats really work. I think that we needed to go through those moments of dialogue to really understand the emotions of the characters. One character in particular that really blew me away was Yoda, and Frank Oz is an amazing actor. His monologue here, for me, tore my heart out of my chest. I'm also such a big fan of how Mark Hamill really balanced his emotions throughout the film as well. You see him being very aggressive, then very calculated, and having to balance between going either to the dark side or staying on the light side. So I kind of like that little back and forth that he has internally because it really does bleed onto the screen. Oh, and before I move any further, I can't forget about my boy Ian McDiarmid as Palpatine. Okay, so in the prequel trilogy, he's pretty much the star alongside Ewan McGregor. But in this film, I really think that every time he's on screen, he is so sinister. He just like steals the show. I'm not gonna lie, as a kid, I did get nightmares. Sure, yeah. But that's because Ian McDiarmid really just dived 110% into this role, and the makeup and the prosthetics on his face are out of this world, guys. Now, I did say in Empire Strikes Back, one of the strongest things I took away from it was the back and forth banter between Leia and Han Solo. And in this film, it feels a little bit more contrived. Now, that doesn't make it a bad thing because most of the time it does resonate with me, but I think that sometimes the dialogue got a little too generic and it didn't really have that back and forth equippiness that it did in episode 5. And that really does go into my next point, which is episode 5 set a bar so high, and so did episode 4, that I don't think Return of the Jedi could ever live up to. Now, I don't think Richard Marquand wanted to make another Empire Strikes Back, but there were so many things in episode 6 that I think took a step backward. The introduction of the Ewoks took a little too long. Like I said in the beginning, the film was a sluggish start. Even though the Luke, Palpatine, and Vader triangle was supposed to be the essential point of the plot, I do believe we spent a little bit too much time on Endor. Now, there is something that Return of the Jedi has that the other 2 original films don't have, and that is, I think, this campy feel. There's a lot that happens where I shook my head and I'm like, so cheesy, but it works. It's so bad that it's good, which is pretty much what Return of the Jedi is in some moments, that it can be a little cliche, a little cheesy, but because it's in the Star Wars universe, and also because Lawrence Kasdan is writing the script, for some reason it flows just fine. But all of that being said, almost everything in this film really played a large part in changing the face of the Skywalker saga forever. I mean, Luke finds out that Leia is his sister, Vader turns on Palpatine, it becomes a trend, and you start to notice that, okay, this was going to be the last of the trilogy. Of course, in hindsight, we have Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker. Even as a kid, and even now as an adult, this feels like a decent conclusion to the original trilogy. But honestly, as the end credits roll, I start to realize this is the worst of the original trilogy. Now, that doesn't make it a bad film. It's just far behind Empire Strikes Back and A New Hope. And don't act like Return of the Jedi didn't do a lot for Star Wars meme culture. You know, it's a trap. Yeah. Admiral Akbar is that dude. Alrighty, you guys, so there you have it, another episode of Star Wars Rewind in the bag. Those are my thoughts on episode 6, Return of the Jedi. I'm curious to hear what you think, but before you go ahead and leave a comment, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video and share with all your friends in the galaxy, and hit that little bell right next to it so you get notified when I drop episode 7, 8, and next week's The Rise of Skywalker review. I hope y'all can't see me sweating, I'm so excited. Alright guys, again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening. Wasn't lying, y'all. This sweater is hot. Need some water. Dehydration is a thing.